The tides of betrayal crashed against my ribs as I stared at the presentation screen. Introducing Fresh Space, the revolutionary app that connects urban residents with microgardens in their neighborhood. My fingers dug into my palms as I watched Vanessa Brighton, my supposed best friend of 8 years, pitch my idea to the venture capital firm we both dreamed of impressing. Every slide, every concept, every market projection, all mine. All stolen. Just 3 weeks ago, I'd shared my entire business plan with her over wine and Thai food in my tiny apartment, seeking her feedback as a fellow designer. I'd trusted her with my passion project, the culmination of 2 years of research and development. My ticket out of our corporate design firm's crushing monotony. With geolocation tracking and community engagement tools, Fresh Space transforms abandoned urban spaces into thriving communal gardens, Vanessa continued, her voice dripping with enthusiasm that wasn't hers to feel. My name is Imogen Reed, and in that moment, I felt myself disappearing, becoming nothing more than the ghost of an idea someone else had claimed. Brilliant concept, Ms. Brighton, said Maxwell Harrington, the head of Pinnacle Ventures and the very man I'd hoped would one day fund my startup. The integration of community building with environmental sustainability is precisely what we're looking to invest in this quarter. The room erupted in applause. I slipped out before anyone could notice the tears threatening to spill from my eyes. Back at my desk, I pulled up the original presentation on my laptop. The same concepts, the same projections, even some of the same phrasing. The only difference was the name. Mine was called Greenlink. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa, "Sorry you couldn't make the pitch meeting. It went amazing. Dinner tonight to celebrate?" The audacity almost made me laugh. Instead, I typed a reply with trembling fingers, "How could you?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. "I don't know what you mean." I shut my phone off and dropped it in my drawer. What was I supposed to do now? I had the original files, timestamp dated emails to myself, sketches, and prototypes, but Vanessa had connections. Her father golfed with half the venture capitalists in the city. Her family name opened doors that remained firmly closed to someone like me, whose parents had sacrificed everything just to put me through design school. A gentle knock interrupted my spiraling thoughts. "You okay, Reed?" It was Dominic Chen, our UX lead. One of the few genuine people in our cutthroat design agency. "You left the presentation looking like you'd seen a ghost." I swallowed hard. More like watching someone wearing my skin. His brow furrowed. "What do you mean? That app Vanessa just pitched? It's mine. Everything about it, mine." Understanding dawned on his face. "Your community garden project? The one you've been working on for 2 years. I pulled up the files on my screen, showing him the identical slides, the prototype wireframes dated months ago. "Jesus," he muttered. That's straight up theft. And who's going to believe me?" Vanessa's father is on the board of 3 different tech companies. Her family donates to the same charities as all the VCs in town. I'm just Imogen from nowhere special. Dominic leaned against my desk. "You're Imogen Reed, the most talented designer in this firm. And this is intellectual property theft. You need to fight this." "How?" I asked, my voice small. "Document everything. Then talk to her. Give her a chance to come clean. If she doesn't..." He shrugged. "Well, maybe there are other investors who'd be interested in the real creator." By the time I left the office that evening, I'd compiled all my evidence into a single folder. Every dated sketch, every prototype iteration, every email I'd sent myself documenting my progress. It wasn't much, but it was truth. I debated confronting Vanessa immediately but decided against it. I needed to be strategic, not emotional. I needed to think like Vanessa, calculating, opportunistic, ruthless. As I unlocked the door to my apartment, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered hesitantly. Hello? Is this Imogen Reed? The voice was deep, authoritative, vaguely familiar. Yes, speaking. This is Maxwell Harrington from Pinnacle Ventures. I believe we have something rather important to discuss. My heart stuttered. Maxwell Harrington. Calling me directly. How did you get my number? A soft chuckle. I have my ways, Ms. Reed. More importantly, I have questions about a certain garden community app. The real one. Greenlink, I believe you call it. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. How do you know about that? Let's just say not everyone at your company is comfortable with intellectual theft. Now, I'd like to see your original work. The authentic vision. Are you available for breakfast tomorrow? I sank onto my couch, mind racing. Someone had tipped him off. Dominic? Maybe. But how would he have had Harrington's contact information? Ms. Reed? Are you still there? Yes, I managed. Breakfast. Tomorrow. Where? Larchmont Cafe, 8 a.m. Bring your original materials. And Ms. Reed? Yes. I value authenticity above all else. It's the one thing money can't buy. The call ended, leaving me staring at my phone in disbelief. I tried to focus on the opportunity suddenly before me, but one question kept circling in my mind. If Maxwell Harrington knew about the theft, what else did he know? And more importantly, what was he planning to do about it? As I prepared for the meeting, another text from Vanessa lit up my phone. Seriously, Imogen, what's wrong? I'm worried about you. I left it unanswered. Tomorrow would bring either vindication or further heartbreak. Either way, nothing between Vanessa and me would ever be the same again. The Larchmont Cafe sat nestled between a bookstore and an artisanal bakery, its windows fogged with the steam of early morning coffee and conversation. I arrived 20 minutes early, laptop and portfolio clutched to my chest like armor, only to find Maxwell Harrington already seated at a corner table, nursing an espresso. He stood as I approached, extending his hand. In person, without the barrier of a corporate presentation room between us, he seemed less intimidating. Silver hair, piercing blue eyes, a face lined with experience rather than hardship. Ms. Reed. Thank you for coming. I wouldn't miss it, I replied, sliding into the seat across from him. Although I'm still not clear on how you knew about my project. Harrington motioned to the waitress for another espresso. Let's just say I've been in this business long enough to recognize when something doesn't add up. Ms. Brighton's presentation was polished, but it lacked authenticity. He tilted his head, studying me. It lacked the passion that only comes from true ownership. And someone at my company told you it was mine, I pressed. A slight smile played at his lips. Someone suggested I might be interested in meeting the real innovator behind the concept, yes. The waitress delivered my coffee, and I wrapped my hands around the warm mug, gathering courage. Well, here I am. And here's Greenlink. I opened my laptop, pulling up my original presentation. Everything Vanessa showed you yesterday was taken from this. I can prove it with timestamps, early drafts, research notes. Harrington held up a hand, stopping me. I'd like to hear it from you. not from slides or documents. Tell me why this matters to you, Ms. Reed. Tell me why you created Greenlink. The question caught me off guard. In all my preparations, I'd focused on proving ownership, not explaining passion. I grew up in an apartment complex on the east side, I began hesitantly. No yard, no garden, just concrete and more concrete. My mother kept herbs in windowsill pots, basil, mint, rosemary. It was the only green thing in our lives, but she made it special. I smiled at the memory. She taught me that growing things connects you to the earth, gives you roots even when you don't have any. Harrington nodded, encouraging me to continue. When I moved into my own place after college, I tried to find a community garden, but the waitlists were years long. Meanwhile, I'd walk past these empty lots, abandoned spaces, rooftops, all this potential just wasting away. I leaned forward, my initial nervousness fading as I spoke about the project that had consumed me for 2 years. Greenlink isn't just about growing vegetables. It's about growing communities. Urban neighborhoods are full of people living parallel lives, never intersecting. But when you garden together, when you share the work and the harvest, something changes. People change. I opened my portfolio, showing him sketches of interface designs. The app matches people with underutilized spaces in their neighborhood. It handles the bureaucracy, permits, liability insurance, water access. Then it connects neighbors who want to participate, tracks planting schedules, coordinates harvests. There's a knowledge-sharing component for experienced gardeners to mentor newcomers. I realized I was talking faster, gesturing with my hands like I always did when passion overtook my professional veneer. But what makes it different is the community aspect. Users build profiles based on what they want to grow and why. Maybe someone wants to grow vegetables from their homeland. Maybe another person wants to teach their kids where food comes from. The app matches people not just by location but by purpose. Harrington had been silent throughout, watching me with an intensity that should have been unnerving but somehow wasn't. And the profit model, he asked finally. Multiple streams, I replied without hesitation. Premium subscriptions for enhanced features. Partnerships with seed companies and garden supply retailers. Community-supported agriculture subscriptions for excess produce. Eventually, data licensing to urban planners and sustainability researchers. I paused, then added, but that's not why I built it. No, Harrington agreed. It's not. He closed my portfolio and slid it back across the table, his expression unreadable. You know, Ms. Reed, in venture capital, we invest in people as much as ideas. Ideas can be copied, as you've painfully discovered. But the vision, the drive, the intimate understanding of the problem being solved, that can't be stolen. He took a sip of his espresso. Ms. Brighton may have presented your idea, but she couldn't possibly present your passion. It was evident within minutes that she was reciting someone else's dream. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by caution. I'd been burned too recently to trust so quickly. What happens now? I asked. Now, Harrington said, reaching into his jacket and producing a business card, you come to my office tomorrow with a proper proposal. Not for fresh space, but for Greenlink. Your vision, your terms. I stared at the card, hardly daring to believe what I was hearing. What about Vanessa? Your meeting with her yesterday was enlightening, but ultimately unproductive, he finished. I don't invest in stolen goods, Ms. Reed. No matter how beautifully they're packaged. I took the card, a physical manifestation of a second chance I hadn't dared hope for. Thank you, Mr. Harrington. He smiled, warm and genuine. Maxwell, please. And don't thank me yet. Tomorrow's meeting will be rigorous. Bring your A game. As we parted ways outside the cafe, a final question burned in my mind. Maxwell, I called after him. You still haven't told me who tipped you off. He turned, sunlight glinting off his silver hair. Let's just say not everyone at Meridian Design has forgotten the value of integrity. The rest of the day passed in a blur of preparation and cautious optimism. I refined my pitch, updated my projections, and attempted to tamp down the simultaneous excitement and anxiety churning in my stomach. I had just finished compiling my presentation when my phone vibrated. Vanessa. We need to talk. Now. Your apartment or mine? The confrontation I'd been avoiding had caught up with me. And for the first time, I wasn't dreading it. Mine, I replied. 7 p.m. It was time to reclaim more than just my idea. It was time to reclaim my voice. When Vanessa arrived at my apartment that evening, she was already in defense mode, arms crossed, chin raised, designer handbag clutched like a shield. What's going on with you? She demanded as soon as I opened the door. You've been avoiding me since the presentation. I thought you'd be happy for me. I stepped aside to let her in, my calm newfound and fragile but holding. Happy that you stole my idea and presented it as your own? That kind of happy? Her eyes widened momentarily before narrowing. I don't know what you're talking about. Fresh Space's green link, I said simply, gesturing to my living room wall where I'd pinned up every iteration of my project's development, sketches, user journey maps, interface mock-ups, all meticulously dated. My project. My idea. My 2 years of work. Vanessa's gaze swept over the evidence before returning to me, calculation replacing shock. Come on, Imogen. We both know ideas are a dime a dozen. Execution is what matters. And that's your defense? That stealing is fine as long as you execute well? She sighed dramatically, setting her bag down and moving to my kitchen as if we were having any normal evening. Look, we both had similar ideas. Mine was further along. Stop it. My voice was quiet but firm. Just stop. I showed you everything 3 weeks ago. My entire business plan. You asked questions. Took notes. Said you were giving me feedback. Vanessa poured herself a glass of water, her back to me. When she turned, her expression had shifted to something almost pitying. Okay, fine. I was inspired by your concept. But let's be realistic, Imogen. Who is going to fund you? You don't have the connections, the family name, the pedigree. I did what was necessary to get the idea funded. In this industry, that's how it works. Her casualness about the betrayal made my blood boil, but I kept my voice steady. No, that's how you work. And to be clear, you didn't get it funded. Something flashed in her eyes. What are you talking about? Maxwell Harrington loved the pitch. Maxwell Harrington, I said, allowing myself a small smile, is meeting with me tomorrow. To discuss Greenlink. My app. My vision. The color drained from her face. You're lying. He called me yesterday. Apparently, passion and authenticity matter more to him than connections. I crossed my arms. Someone told him the truth. Vanessa's composure cracked. That's impossible. Who would? She stopped, realization dawning. Chen. That sanctimonious prick. Does it matter? The truth came out, Vanessa. As it always does. She grabbed her bag, hands shaking with anger. You think this changes anything? My father is on the board of 3 tech companies. One word from him would reveal that his daughter is a plagiarist? Go ahead. Tell him. Tell everyone what you did. I stepped closer, finding strength I didn't know I possessed. I have all the evidence. Time-stamped files, emails, my initial research from 2 years ago. You have a pretty presentation you threw together 3 weeks ago. Vanessa's eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape, an angle, anything. You need me, she said finally. My connections, my network. We could still be partners. 50-50. I almost laughed at the audacity. No. There's no we anymore, Vanessa. Not in business, not in friendship. You burned that bridge the moment you decided my work was yours to take. You're making a mistake, she warned, moving toward the door. This industry is all about who you know. And everyone knows a Brighton. I opened the door for her. Maybe. But apparently Maxwell Harrington prefers to know an honest innovator. As she brushed past me, Vanessa paused for one final barb. Good luck tomorrow. Without my presentation skills, you'll crash and burn. You always were better at creating than selling. The door closed behind her, and I leaned against it, exhaling slowly. She wasn't entirely wrong. I'd always struggled with self-promotion, with claiming the spotlight my work deserved. It was partly why Vanessa's betrayal had cut so deep. She'd capitalized on a weakness she had witnessed for years. But tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, I would speak with the same passion I'd shown Harrington at breakfast. No more hiding behind modesty or self-doubt. My phone pinged with a text from Dominic, ready for tomorrow? Getting there, I replied. Was it you? 3 dots appeared, then, some things matter more than office politics. Bring the real green link tomorrow. The one that comes from your heart, not just your head. I smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude for allies I hadn't known I had. That night, I reworked my presentation one final time, stripping away anything that felt like an imitation of Vanessa's style. This would be purely me, less polished perhaps, but authentic to my core. As I finally climbed into bed, exhaustion mingling with anticipation, I realized something important. In trying to steal my idea, Vanessa had inadvertently given me something invaluable, the courage to claim what was mine, without apology or hesitation. Tomorrow would be a new beginning. Not just for Greenlink, but for me. The Pinnacle Ventures office occupied the top floor of a gleaming downtown tower, its lobby adorned with abstract sculptures and living wall gardens. As the elevator climbed to the 40th floor, I adjusted the strap of my portfolio bag and checked my reflection in the mirrored walls. I'd opted for something authentic rather than corporate, a structured emerald dress that echoed my project's ethos, paired with my grandmother's silver pendant. 60 seconds, I murmured to myself, practicing the breathing technique Dominic had taught me to calm pre-presentation nerves. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. The elevator dinged, and I stepped into a reception area designed to impress. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city, while sleek furniture and digital art installations spoke of wealth without ostentation. Ms. Reed. A young woman with an elegant hijab and a warm smile approached. Mr. Harrington is expecting you. Right this way. She led me through a corridor lined with meeting rooms, each named after a different natural wonder: Amazon, Everest, Serengeti. We stopped at the door marked Kyoto. Good luck, she said with a genuinely encouraging smile. He's been looking forward to this. The Kyoto room was unexpected, intimate rather than imposing, with a round table instead of a conventional conference setup. Actual plants thrived in the corners, and the walls displayed photographs of community gardens from around the world. Maxwell Harrington sat with 3 others, a younger man with sharp eyes and a tablet, an older woman with a sleek silver bob, and a middle-aged woman whose casual attire contrasted with the others' business wear. Imogen, Harrington greeted me warmly. Welcome to Pinnacle. Let me introduce you to our team. He gestured to each person in turn. Adrian Wells, our tech analyst. Margaret Leung, senior partner. And Dr. Eliza Diaz, our sustainability consultant. I shook hands with each, noting the firm grip and curious gaze of Dr. Diaz in particular. I understand you have quite a story to tell us, said Margaret, her voice carrying the crisp edge of someone who didn't suffer fools. Both personal and professional. Harrington raised a hand. The personal circumstances that brought Ms. Reed to our attention have been addressed. Today is about the vision, the execution, and the potential of GreenLink. I set up my laptop, grateful for his intervention but determined to address the elephant in the room myself. It's okay, I said, meeting Margaret's evaluating gaze. Yes, my idea was appropriated by a colleague. But that's not what defines this project, nor what defines me. What matters is what GreenLink can do for urban communities, and why I'm the right person to bring it to life. Something shifted in Margaret's expression, not quite approval, but perhaps respect. Well said, she remarked. Let's see what you've got. I launched into my presentation, beginning not with market projections or competitive analysis, but with a photograph of my mother's tiny windowsill garden. This is where GreenLink began, I explained. Not with market research or trend analysis, but with a child's wonder at seeing life grow in the most unlikely places. For the next 30 minutes, I guided them through my vision, the technology, the community-building philosophy, the scalability model. I showed them wireframes and user testing feedback, revenue projections, and partnership opportunities. But most importantly, I let them see my passion, the driving force Vanessa could never replicate. When I finished, there was a moment of silence. Adrian typed rapidly on his tablet. Dr. Diaz studied one of my user journey maps with intense focus. Margaret and Harrington exchanged a glance I couldn't interpret. Questions? I asked, prepared for anything. Several, Adrian began, looking up from his tablet. Your tech stack seems unnecessarily complex for the initial launch. Why not start with a more streamlined approach? I'd anticipated this. Because community engagement requires nuance from day one. If we launch with limited functionality, we risk users seeing GreenLink as just another location app rather than a community building tool. I've planned for phased development, but the core technology needs to support the full vision from the start. He nodded, seemingly satisfied, and made a note. Your revenue projections in year 3 seem ambitious, Margaret observed. Particularly given the slow adoption curve typical for community platforms. I pulled up a secondary slide I'd prepared. These figures account for geographical expansion into 15 major urban centers by year 3. Our partnerships with seed companies and garden suppliers provide revenue even during slow user growth phases. Additionally, our data licensing model becomes viable once we reach critical mass in just 3 cities. Dr. Diaz leaned forward. I'm more concerned with sustainability beyond the environmental aspect. How do you ensure these community gardens don't become abandoned projects when the initial enthusiasm wanes? This was the question I'd been waiting for, the one that spoke to the heart of GreenLink. That's where our community engagement tools make the difference, I explained, navigating to a demonstration of the app's social features. Traditional community gardens fail when they rely solely on individual commitment. GreenLink creates shared responsibility and investment. I showed them the accountability system, the mentorship matching algorithm, the achievement milestones. We've built in multiple reinforcement mechanisms, harvest celebration events, knowledge sharing rewards, community achievement badges. But most importantly, we create tangible connections between participants. When you've taught someone's child how to plant tomatoes, you're more likely to show up week after week. Dr. Diaz smiled for the first time. You understand the human element. That's refreshing. The questions continued for another 20 minutes, each more challenging than the last. I answered without hesitation, occasionally acknowledging limitations or areas for development, but never apologizing for my vision. Finally, Harrington raised a hand, signaling the end of the inquiry. Thank you, Imogen. Would you mind stepping out for a few minutes while we confer? As the door closed behind me, I exhaled slowly, replaying moments from the presentation in my mind. Had I been clear enough about the technical architecture? Should I have emphasized the partnership potential more? Had my passion overwhelmed my professionalism? The young woman from reception appeared with a glass of water. They usually take about 15 minutes, she said encouragingly. It went well, I think. Dr. Diaz almost never smiles. I smiled gratefully, about to thank her when the door opened again. It had been barely 5 minutes. Imogen, Harrington called. Please join us again. I stepped back into the room, unable to read the expressions around the table. Please, sit, Margaret said, gesturing to my previous chair. Harrington leaned forward, fingers steepled in front of him. We've seen hundreds of pitches in this room. Some technically brilliant but soulless. Others passionate but impractical. He glanced at his colleagues, who nodded in agreement. Rarely do we encounter a vision that balances both elements as effectively as GreenLink. My heart raced, but I kept my expression composed. Pinnacle Ventures would like to offer you seed funding of $1.5 million for a 15% equity stake in GreenLink. The figure was higher than I dared hope for, the equity percentage lower than standard. Additionally, Margaret added, we'd like to offer incubator space in our tech campus, mentorship from our partner network, and introductions to potential strategic allies. We do have conditions, Harrington continued. You'll need to assemble a leadership team within 30 days. While your vision is compelling, execution will require specialized expertise. Understood, I said, my voice remarkably steady despite the elation building inside me. I already have potential candidates in mind. Dr. Diaz spoke up. We'd also like to connect GreenLink with the Urban Sustainability Foundation. Their resources could accelerate your impact in underserved communities. I would welcome that, I replied, thinking of the East Side neighborhoods like the one I'd grown up in. Adrian slid a folder across the table. These are our standard terms. Review them with your lawyer, of course. But we're prepared to move quickly if you are. I accepted the folder, still processing the reality of what was happening. GreenLink was going to exist. My vision would take root in the real world. Thank you for this opportunity, I said, meaning every word. I won't let you down. We know you won't, Harrington replied with quiet confidence. You've already shown extraordinary resilience. That quality matters more than you might think in this business. As we stood to shake hands, Margaret fixed me with a penetrating look. One piece of advice, Ms. Reed. The colleague who appropriated your work, don't waste energy on resentment. Success is your best response. I nodded, recognizing the wisdom in her words. Though, Adrian added with a slight smirk, if you happen to hear she's looking for a new position soon, don't feel obligated to offer one. I left Pinnacle Ventures in a state of controlled euphoria, clutching the terms folder like a talisman. Outside the building, I allowed myself a moment of pure, unbridled joy, spinning in a small circle on the sidewalk, face tilted to the sun, heart overflowing. My phone buzzed with a text from Dominic. Well? I smiled, typing back, they're in. $1.5 million seed round. His response came immediately, hell yes. Dinner tonight to celebrate? On me. Absolutely, I replied. Bring champagne. As I walked toward the transit station, another text came through, this one from a number I didn't recognize. Congratulations on the funding. When you're ready to discuss urban planning integration for Greenlink, I'd love to talk. Eliza Diaz, Urban Sustainability Foundation. The possibilities were expanding by the minute. I saved her number, making a mental note to follow up next week. Just as I reached the station, my phone rang. Vanessa. I hesitated, then answered. Hello, Vanessa. Is it true? Her voice was tight with poorly contained emotion. Did Pinnacle fund you? I paused, considering Margaret's advice about resentment. Yes, they did. You must be thrilled with yourself, she said bitterly. Getting me blacklisted from Pinnacle in the process. I didn't blacklist you, Vanessa. Your actions did. Right. So self-righteous. You know Meridian fired me this morning? They said it was for ethical violations. My father is livid. I felt a complicated mix of emotions, a flicker of satisfaction quickly overshadowed by a more mature resolve. I'm sorry it came to this, I said honestly. But what did you expect? I expected loyalty, she snapped. After everything I did for you. Don't. I cut her off firmly. Don't rewrite our history to make yourself the victim. You betrayed me, not the other way around. The line went quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice had lost its edge, revealing something more vulnerable beneath. What am I supposed to do now, Imogen? My reputation is ruined. I sighed, finding compassion despite everything. Start over. Build something real this time. Something that comes from you, not something you took from someone else. Easy for you to say, with your $1 million funding, she muttered. It wasn't easy, Vanessa. None of this has been easy. But it's been mine. My work, my vision, my fight. I paused, then added, that's something money can't buy. She was quiet again, longer this time. I'm sorry, she finally said, so softly I almost missed it. Not that it matters. It matters, I replied. It's a start. The subway arrived, and I watched the doors open. I have to go. Good luck, Vanessa. I mean that. As I ended the call and stepped onto the train, I realized I truly did mean it. The anger was still there, but it no longer defined me or my relationship to what had happened. I had reclaimed not just my idea, but my power. That evening, Dominic arrived at my apartment with champagne as promised, along with a small potted herb garden. For your windowsill, he explained with a shy smile. Like your mom's. I placed it carefully on the kitchen ledge where the late afternoon sun streamed in. It's perfect. Thank you. As we toasted my unexpected victory, Dominic's expression grew serious. I have a confession to make. I wasn't the only one who tipped off Harrington. I tilted my head, curious. Who else? Dr. Eliza Diaz. She was consulting at Meridian when you first started developing Greenlink. She remembered your original concepts. But how did she know about Vanessa's presentation? Dominic grinned. Harrington sends her information about potential investments in urban sustainability. When she saw the fresh space pitch materials, she recognized my work, I finished, amazed at the serendipity of it all. The universe has a way of balancing things out, Dominic said, raising his glass again. To Greenlink, and to its brilliant creator. As we clinked glasses, I felt a sense of rightness settle over me. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, building a team, refining the product, navigating the complex world of startup funding. But tonight was for celebration. To new beginnings, I added. And to growing something real. Outside my window, the city sprawled, concrete and steel interspersed with pockets of green where people had fought to make space for nature. Soon, Greenlink would help those spaces multiply, connecting not just people to gardens, but people to each other. It was everything I had dreamed of, and now, against all odds, it was becoming real. 3 months later, I stood in Greenlink's new office space, the renovated top floor of a former warehouse in the Arts District. Morning sunlight streamed through the industrial windows, illuminating the living wall we'd installed as both decoration and prototype. Around the central workspace, my small but dedicated team was already at their desks. Dominic, who had left Meridian to become our UX director, Zoe, a brilliant developer I'd met through an incubator program, Marcus, our community engagement specialist, and Priya, our operations manager. I set my coffee on the reclaimed wood conference table and opened my laptop to review the day's agenda. Pinnacle's funding had enabled a rapid but focused development phase, and we were approaching our beta launch in 3 neighborhoods. My phone pinged with a notification. An email from Dr. Diaz with the subject line, "Unexpected development, need to talk." Before I could open it, Priya appeared at my side, tablet in hand. "Morning, boss. You're going to want to see this." She pulled up a tech news site, pointing to a headline that made my stomach drop. Brighton Industries announces urban sustainability app, Community Sprout. The accompanying image showed Vanessa's father at a podium, with Vanessa herself standing proudly beside him. "They're launching in the same 3 neighborhoods we targeted," Priya said, scrolling to show me the details. Similar functionality, free for the first year, backed by Brighton's full marketing machine. I stared at the screen, disbelief mingling with a fresh wave of betrayal. After everything, the theft, the apology, the supposed remorse, Vanessa had simply taken her scheme to her father. Dominic appeared beside us, his expression grim. "I just saw. What do we do?" I took a deep breath, thinking of the months of progress, the trust Pinnacle had placed in me, the responsibility I bore to my team. "We adapt," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "We've always been about authenticity and community connection. That's our strength, not flashy marketing or corporate backing." I opened my email to find several others already awaiting me: Harrington, Adrian, investors worried about the competition, all wanting to know our response. "Call an emergency team meeting," I told Priya. "And get Harrington on the phone. We'll need to address this head-on." Within an hour, my entire team was gathered around the conference table, a video call with Harrington, Margaret, and Adrian projected on the wall screen. "I assume you've all seen the announcement," I began, not wasting time on preliminaries. "Brighton Industries is launching a competing app. With remarkably similar features," Adrian noted from the screen, scrolling through his tablet. "Though their press release emphasizes free access and corporate sponsorship." "Is this legal?" Zoe asked, outrage evident in her voice. "After what happened with Vanessa?" Unfortunately, yes, Margaret replied, her tone measured yet tinged with experience. The core concept of community gardens isn't proprietary. They've clearly positioned their implementation differently enough to avoid legal consequences. The weight of her words settled over the room like a heavy blanket. I traced my finger along the grain of our reclaimed wood table, feeling the history of its past lives beneath my touch. So they win? Marcus asked, anger barely contained in his voice. They only win if we let them, I said, straightening my shoulders. I looked at each face around me, my team, who had believed in Greenlink enough to stake their careers on it. Brighton has money and connections. What we have is authenticity and purpose. Harrington leaned forward on the screen, his eyes sharp with determination. Imogen, what's your strategy? In that moment, something crystallized within me, a clarity born not from desperation but from conviction. I had fought too hard to surrender now. We accelerate our launch, I said, moving to the whiteboard. But we pivot slightly. Community Sprout is positioning as a corporate solution dropped into neighborhoods. We position as a community-built solution rising from within them. I began sketching rapidly. We start with the East Side, my old neighborhood. We already have connections there. We don't just launch an app, we launch with stories. Real people, real gardens, real transformation. My hands moved with certainty as the vision took shape. Brighton can throw money at marketing, but we'll invest in relationships. Let them be the corporate savior, we'll be the community partner. Priya was already typing notes, her eyes bright with renewed energy. We could document the entire process, from empty lot to first harvest. Real stories, real people. Authenticity marketing, Dominic nodded, understanding immediately. Brighton can't compete with that. By the time our emergency meeting concluded, we had a revised 6-week launch plan. As the team dispersed with new purpose, Harrington remained on the video call. You know this won't be easy, he said quietly. The Brightons play to win. I smiled, feeling strangely at peace despite the challenge ahead. So do I. Just not by their rules. As I shut down the call, I glanced at the small herb garden now thriving on our office windowsill, the one Dominic had given me months ago. Some plants flourish despite harsh conditions, I thought. Not by force, but by finding their place, their purpose. Greenlink would do the same.